Mark and Lisa had been searching for the perfect home for months. They wanted something spacious, a house with character, something that felt like it had history but was still warm and inviting. When they stumbled upon an old Victorian home in upstate New York, it felt like destiny. The house was breathtaking, towering ceilings, elegant woodwork, and windows that let golden sunlight spill into every room. But despite its beauty, something about the house felt off. It stood alone at the end of a long, quiet street, surrounded by twisted, gnarled trees that cast strange shadows at dusk. The most peculiar thing, however, was the price. It was shockingly low for such a large, historic home in a prime location. Too low. Lisa felt a nagging doubt creeping into her mind, but Mark shrugged it off. "It's probably just an old listing," he reasoned. Still, Lisa couldn't shake her uneasiness. "Why is it so cheap?" she asked the real estate agent as they toured the property. The agent hesitated just a second too long before forcing a smile. "Oh, it's been on the market for a while. You know how old houses can be." Just as they were about to sign the papers, the agent casually added, "Oh, and one little thing. The attic door sometimes opens on its own, but it's just the wood shifting. Nothing to worry about." Lisa glanced at Mark, but he was already signing. She swallowed her unease and told herself it was just an old house settling into itself. For the first few weeks, everything seemed normal. They settled in, decorated the house, and started making it their own. But then, little things started happening. Lisa would turn off a light, only to find it on again moments later. Doors she knew she had shut would be slightly open when she passed by again. At first, she convinced herself it was forgetfulness. Maybe she had just imagined closing them. Then, one night, while lying in bed, she heard it. A sound that made her entire body tense. It was soft at first. A slow, rhythmic creaking, coming from above their bedroom, from the attic. Lisa held her breath, listening. The sound wasn't random. It wasn't the wind. It was footsteps, slow, heavy, deliberate. She turned to Mark and nudged him awake. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. Mark groaned, rubbing his eyes. He listened for a moment and sighed. "It's probably just the house settling. Go back to sleep." Lisa tried to convince herself that he was right. But deep down, she knew. Houses don't settle like that. One afternoon, Lisa sat alone in the living room, reading a book. The house was quiet, the air still, until she heard it. A whisper, software breathless, coming from above her head. She froze, her fingers tightening around the book. The sound was faint, almost like words, but just beyond her understanding. It was coming from the ceiling, from the attic. Lisa's heart pounded. "Mark?" she called, even though she knew he wasn't home. The whispering stopped. Instantly, as if it had been caught. Slowly, she grabbed the broom from the corner of the room and reached up, tapping 3 times on the ceiling. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, 3 knocks back. That night, Lisa told Mark what happened. He sighed, grabbed a flashlight, and decided to check the attic himself. The stairs leading up to the attic were old and creaky. Each step groaned under his weight as he climbed, the air growing colder the higher he went. When he reached the top, he hesitated. The attic door was shut, but it felt wrong, like something was waiting just behind it. Taking a deep breath, he turned the knob and pushed the door open. The attic was dark, the air thick with dust. He swept the flashlight beam across the room. Nothing but old boxes and forgotten furniture. Then, in the farthest corner, his light landed on something that made his stomach twist. A rocking chair, old and wooden, positioned as if someone had just been sitting in it. Mark stepped closer, his heart pounding. And then the chair moved. Not much, just a slight, gentle rock, forward and back, as if someone had just stood up from it. Mark didn't wait to see more. He turned and hurried back down the stairs, slamming the attic door shut behind him. That night, Lisa woke up gasping. She had a terrible dream, a woman in the attic whispering her name. But when she opened her eyes, something was wrong. The air was heavy, thick, like something unseen was standing in the room with them. She turned her head slightly, and her stomach dropped. A shadow, tall, thin, twisted, standing at the foot of their bed. Its fingers, impossibly long, reaching out toward them. Lisa wanted to scream, but the sound was trapped in her throat. Then it lunged. Lisa sat up, gasping, clutching Mark's arm. The shadow was gone. At that exact moment, the attic door slammed shut on its own. Mark and Lisa left the house before sunrise. They couldn't stay there another night. Days later, Mark started researching the house's history. What he found made his blood run cold. In 1910, a woman named Margaret had lived there. Her husband had locked her in the attic and left her there to die. By the time the authorities found her body, it was too late. She had scratched at the door, whispering for help, but no one came. And the attic door? The scratches Lisa had seen had been there for over 100 years. 2008, Jason Carter, a traveling salesman, checked into the old Redwood Inn in rural Pennsylvania. It was late, and he was exhausted from a long drive. The receptionist handed him a key to room 306, but then she hesitated. "Are you sure you want this room?" she asked. Jason chuckled. "Why? Is it haunted?" She forced a smile. "Some guests say they hear things." Jason shrugged it off. He didn't believe in ghosts. But that night, at exactly 3:06 a.m., a loud knocking came from the closet. His heart pounded as he turned on the lamp. The closet door was slightly open. Had it been like that before? He got up, walked over, and pulled it shut. Just as he crawled back into bed, "Knock! Knock! Knock!" Jason jumped up and yanked the door open. Nothing. Trying to calm himself, he turned off the light and lay back down. That's when he felt it. A freezing breath on his neck. Jason bolted upright. His breath came in quick gasps. He wasn't alone. The final warning. Suddenly, his phone lit up on the nightstand. The screen read, "Get out!" Terrified, he grabbed his bags and sprinted out of the room. The night receptionist looked up as he stormed downstairs. "You saw her, didn't you?" she whispered. Jason never answered. He just left. Years later, he learned the truth. In 1972, a woman had been murdered in room 306. They found her body in the closet. Her spirit is still knocking, still waiting for someone to find her. And if you ever stay in room 306, listen carefully at 3:06 a.m.